Looking for some fantasy sleepers? I got a top 10 list. I'm going to give it to you. It's going to have 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends because they're kind of tough to find. But I'm going to give you a top 10. Maybe you're drafting the next month. I preferably like to draft maybe a week or 2 before. That way you kind of avoid injuries. But maybe you're drafting fairly soon. You need maybe some sleeper options. I got some for you. But what's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Burrow, just in case you did not know so. And about to give you some fantasy football sleepers. Go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. And it's always much appreciated, much obliged. So I'm going to give you these sleepers. I have to stay a little quiet. My baby's sleeping. It's like 3:30 in the morning. I leave to go camping in like 3 hours. But I wanted to get a fantasy football video up for you guys. So I did a little studying, and we're going to start with our quarterbacks, and my first quarterback is Drew Brees. The dude's got an ADP of the 7th round. He's got a lot going in his way. First off, he's got a bunch of playmakers, but the addition of Emmanuel Sanders might be clutch. It was for Jimmy G last season. Before Emmanuel Sanders, Jimmy G was averaging 12.6 yards a game as far as fantasy points. After, it went up to 19 points a game. Drew Brees, after he was returned from injury, the dude finished with 21 or more fantasy football points a game outside of 2 games, and they both came in Atlanta. So great. I got a guy that I just need a bench for a bye week and the 2 games against Atlanta. But the guy, like, Brees was the quarterback 3 from the moment he returns his injury to the end of the year. So you're drafting a guy in the 7th who has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback. Not half bad, right? Next person I got on the list, a little more of a reach. Probably should get this guy if you already have a quarterback, but it's Joe Burrow for the Bengals. He's got an 11th round ADP, really good. Historically, first round pick, or at least first pick overall quarterbacks, they historically do very well in their first season for fantasy football. They actually, more times than not, finish in the top 12. I'm assuming most of us play in 10 to 12 team leagues, so that's pretty darn good. The Bengals, they have the 11th easiest schedule in the league. That includes games against pretty bad secondaries like Jacksonville, Miami. Well, maybe not Miami so much anymore, but the Giants, the Redskins, the Texans. The Bengals also, this is another little caveat, because Zach Taylor, he comes from that Sean McVay coaching lineage, so you got to think maybe the play action will be a big part of their offense. It wasn't last year. It wasn't. He only, I think, 19.4% of their offensive snaps were play actions. The league average was 26.6. But maybe in year 2, Taylor kind of opens up the playbook a little bit more. Why is that a good thing? Because Burrow is money on play action. The dude had a passer rating of 150.3 for LSU last season and 74.1 accuracy. So a lot of numbers in his favor. He's got really good weapons. Should consider him. Let's start with the running backs, and you're gonna love this name, Ronald Jones II. I know. That's kind of a name that makes everybody a little sick. It's not like he's produced particularly well, but roll with me on this. The dude, he finished as the running back 26 last season. Now, running backs, typically when they have non-mobile quarterbacks, they see an uptick in targets and an uptick in production. So this has everything to do with his quarterback, Tom Brady. On top of that, he's playing with Tom Brady. You remember how much he loved James White? Well, I think Ronald Jones could potentially be his James White. The dude, he had the second most yards after the catch last season for running backs. He saw 38 targets last season. They did draft Keyshawn Vaughn, but I don't think he's much of a pass catcher. Yes, granted, Vandy wasn't playing with exactly the best talent around him, but Ronald Jones, he's already proven in this league he can be a pass catcher. So I think this could be a good pick in the 7th round if you kind of already got your starter set. On to the next running back on this list, Matt Breida from Miami. I'm a Dolphin fan if you didn't know, and personally, I don't draft Miami Dolphin players. Because they suck? No. Because when they do suck, I don't want to hate my team because they're losing fantasy football for me. I'd rather just hate my team because they suck, not because they're losing fantasy football for me. But for you guys, Matt Breida could be a really good option, especially in the passing game. At San Fran, he ran 89 routes of his 268 passing snaps. So that was actually the biggest ratio of routes ran on passing snaps of all the running backs there. The Dolphins, the running backs saw 106 targets, right? So that's 106 targets potentially up for grabs, because let's be honest, it's just going to be Jordan Howard seeing seeing time, and Breida. Those two guys, they're not going to, the other guy, who's behind them? Nobody I'd start. It's going to be these two guys. Another good news. Very comparable. The Philadelphia Eagles. Their running backs last year, they saw a combined 107 running back targets. So it's very comparable with the Dolphins' 106. Guess how much Jordan Howard saw of that share? Only 13. So yeah, Breida is he's probably gonna see a lot of work in the passing game. And then next one, the 10th rounder, Kerryon Johnson. I'm just saying I think there's a lot of potential here. The Achilles heel for Kerryon Johnson has always been injury. He also saw a diminished role in the passing game once they started to use last season when they started utilizing J.D. McKissick. But he's gone now. He's gone. But you're like, well, they drafted DeAndre Swift. Okay, yes, but I don't think he's going to cut too much into his time. And here's why, because DeAndre Swift, he never saw over 200 carries in a season there at Georgia. He's not exactly known for his big play potential. He's not very explosive, or at least elusive. And actually, he's very comparable to Kerryon Johnson, as they're both kind of above average when it comes to yards after contact. So you might be like, okay, if anything, it just sounds like it'll be a running back by committee. They're both probably going to see split time. On the contrary, Kerryon Johnson, he saw 8 goal line carries last season, which was 14th among running backs. Keep in mind, he was hurt too last year. Also, a shortened off-season program, it favors the incumbent starter. Who is that? Kerryon Johnson. So if anything, he's going to get utilized more early on. So I think you could have a pretty solid pick here in the 10th round where you're taking shots anyway. On to the receivers, Tyler Boyd. He's got an 8th round ADP, and the dude, he's coming back with AJ Green, hopefully healthy. He was so much better in 2018 when AJ Green was on the field. When AJ Green was on the field, Tyler Boyd averaged about 80 yards a game. When he was gone, that dropped to 62. Last season, the dude was money in the slot. He had 661 yards in the slot last season, which was good for 7th among just all slot yardage. He averaged 13.8 yards a catch in the slot. Why is this kind of an interesting tidbit? Well, Joe Burrow likes the slot. One of his favorite weapons, Justin Jefferson. The dude saw 109 receptions for over 1,500 yards in the slot. So maybe I'm just connecting dots that aren't supposed to be connected, but I think there's some good reason in there. If you don't like that, maybe DeSean Jackson in the 11th round? Yo, that's good right there. That's good. Keep in mind, the dude, he was just traded for a season ago, given an extension. And then his one healthy game last year, it was 9 targets for 8 catches, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns. Doug Peterson, he's also been quoted saying he's going to bring Jalen Reagor along slowly. So he's not going to at least dip into DeSean Jackson's time early. And I know you'd be like, well, the health thing, he's 33, and what about his health? Outside of last season, he's seen at least 72 targets or more in every season but one. So out of a 12-year career, the dude's seen at least 72 targets or more, except for 2 seasons. Not bad. And you know, if that doesn't float your boat, maybe I got another 11th rounder for you. And he's a Dolphins too. He's a Dolphins player too. Preston Williams. He's got 11th round ADP. And I like him because I think he's going to be very comparable as far as his statistics to DeSean Jackson, who's going in the 8th round. So you could get someone who, again, I'm projecting to be very comparable 3 rounds later. You know why? This guy, he had 5 or more targets in all games he played. He averaged 8 targets a game. The one game where he had 5 targets, it was the season opener versus the Baltimore Ravens, where they got blown out. Interesting. Also, the dude's 6'4", 211. He runs a 5'4", or a 5. Wow, ooh, that would have sucked. A 4.53. So he's a big, speedy, like vertical threat. The guy was targeted 16 of his, or at least 16 of his 59 targets were on balls thrown 20 yards or more. He was averaging 2 deep shots a game. So a lot of big play potential with him. Also, keep in mind, they didn't add any receivers in the draft. Intriguing. Now let's move on to tight ends because that's kind of tough. And we're going to start with Tyler Higbee, 7th round ADP. He had the 3rd most targets on the team at 86. He was 3rd on the team for yards after the catch with 401. The next closest guy was Gurley at 195. Passer rating when Goff would target Higbee was 2nd on the team at 109. So Goff, not only is Goff targeting him, but he's targeting him, and the result comes out really good. So I think he's actually going to end up seeing more snaps than Everett because Higbee was just a better blocker. So yes, they may use a little more 2 tight end sets like they kind of did last year. But if they do go to 1 tight end set, or they go to a 1 tight end set, it's going to be Higbee. He's the better blocker by far. And then if you're really in a bind, you got a tight end, but you're not too sure, you want to grab another one kind of as a safety valve, you could go TJ Hawkinson. He's 13th round ADP. And there's a few statistics and just a few kind of I guess indications that it could go well. His offensive coordinator is Darrell Bevel, who he's got a track record with tight ends doing quite well in fantasy football. Jimmy Graham, for instance. Hawkinson, he saw 14.1% of the target share there in Detroit. He was 9th in snaps from the slot, which means he's going out for receptions. And, well, 9th among tight ends in the slot. And then he was also 7th among tight ends in balls thrown, or at least targets thrown 20 yards or longer. So kind of a big play potential there. Keep in mind, the dude was a top pick. They invested a top 10 pick in this guy. Healthy Matthew Stafford, a lot of things could potentially go well. He's got red zone size. You kind of saw that week 1. So a bit risky, but not too much if it's in the 13th round. But if he's the only tight end you're drafting, then yes, it's pretty risky. But that's all I got for you. That's it for the video. Go ahead, do that YouTube thing. And until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.